You passed your luck check. It's
the No Class RPG Twitch cast or podcast
with your hosts, Eddie
and Matt.
And I hope you enjoyed Matt's new introduction here. We're testing it out.
Testing it on you. You are a bunch of testes.
For our Twitch show on the Goodman Games Broadcasting Network.
April
on their Twitch.
The 26th.
At 7 o'clock, most likely.
Eastern time?
All of it, 7 o'clock our time, 8
time.
their time.
Okay, Central time, 7. Eastern time, 8. Otherwise, figure it out.
So write it down in sand.
Tattoo it on your forehead.
Because it's subject to change.
Exactly.
But if it doesn't change, we really need your support. And we hope if you are twisted enough to listen to the podcast, you'll just love the live show.
Yes, indeed. You'll get to see our incredibly Adonis-like figures adorning your electronic screens.
And we've always said this is the two friends talking and you can't get a word in edgewise. But with the Twitch show,
you still won't.
You'll be able to,
no,
but we have to deign to read your comments.
Yes, and we might deign.
Or we might not.
It might be great Danes. Who knows?
But we would love to have you checking us out there and giving us your input.
Please.
All right.
Please.
As always, anything to say about the long con?
I'm jazzed. I'm excited. I'm very much looking forward to the long con.
The question people keep asking me, when are badges going to go on sale?
ASAP.
Wrong.
I know.
26th April.
That's right. But
at 8 o'clock.
Ask me what I'm gazing at longly.
Me. It's me, folks.
It's beard. No, I'm looking at
disgusting.
the absolutely brand spanking, emphasis on the word spanking, the brand new Long Con t-shirt. It is sexy as all get out.
And very soon you will get to see that.
Yep. We're going to be wearing it at Gary Con. So we're going to promo it.
Yep.
Demo it.
But it'll get its official reveal on that Twitch show.
Uh-huh.
And probably at the end of the Twitch show is when our badge sales will go live.
Oh, my.
So you want to be tuned in.
I wonder if there might be like
into that Goodman Games Channel
code or something mentioned on that for people who are watching.
Nah, doubtful.
Okay.
Highly doubtful.
Okay. I wouldn't want to, like allude to something like that to encourage people to watch.
All right.
Okay.
Well, this is probably going to be the Elden Ring podcast.
Pretty much.
So I'm just going to throw it out there for everything else. Books, TV, movies.
All right. Comics.
Yep, go for it.
I have been reading the Chronicles of Conan. I've been at Second and Charles, and I've looked at those a couple of times at places like Ground Zero. And I've seen other places. But I finally bit the bullet and bought a couple of those. I guess they're the old Marvel Comics Conan, but they're reissued by Dark Horse.
Mm-hmm.
Really wonderful.
Black
really
and
enjoying
white.
it. No, these are actually in color. Yeah, so I don't know. But I'm enjoying them. Red Sonja is in quite a few of them. Red Sonja. So anyway, so far. But who doesn't like red-headed ladies in chainmail bikinis?
Who doesn't?
Indeed. And this is sort of a comic books to TV show comic. Okay.
We're freeform here.
Invincible season 2 and 3 have been announced. They're coming out. I don't know if you knew that. Eddie probably did. Or not.
It was a huge success, so it was kind of obvious that they were going to have at least another season.
But how cool they announced 2 and 3 at the same time. And what is it? Returning to D&D is Kryn, the World of Dragonlance, due to return to 5th edition. And I was speculating, I wonder if this has anything to do with all the drama over the new Dragonlance books a while back. If y'all remember, if y'all listened to our podcast, this might have had something to do with that. There's a new Witcher game in the works.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anyway. And then otherwise, I'd mention that I'm really jazzed for GaryCon coming up this week. We each have full games that we're excited about running and making some new friends there and, whatever. And then I'm getting excited for NTRPG because we both have games posted that it filled up the halfway point pretty quick. And that's always exciting.
I feel like it's going to be GaryCon, NTRPG, LongCon, and then the year's completely gone. They're just going to be like, those were like a week apart. and that's how fast the year is going to go by.
Feel like that, yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, what was it? What, a year or two ago felt like you were like, what? It's been, it's only, it just seemed like time crept forward because we were all stuck in our houses or whatever.
But speaking of time flying, this is going to be the 3rd anniversary podcast as well. What? 3 years ago we started this.
Really?
And we were talking about, we hope Red River does well. And I think that would be Red River 2.
Yeah, that was one of the most listened to episodes, was when we said Red River's done.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess apparently that you people want gloom and doom.
Well, there you go. Then the day the long con died should pop up there pretty fast.
Yeah.
And just going back to that, since we're all freeform today, soon we will be doing our drive to 200 to try and get to 200 attendees for the fabulous long con.
Absolutely.
We may not hit it, but we're going to push for it.
What would be the best thing to help us with that, Eddie?
Word of mouth.
Really? You mean word of mouth, telling people how much you like the long con would help other people probably apt to come?
Yep. People don't look at posters. Lots of people aren't on Facebook anymore.
Right.
So how do you reach them?
You got to let them know.
You've got to do it.
Long con's the stuff.
So we need you. We appreciate you.
We
if
really
you are
do.
listening to this, you were probably already spreading the word, and I salute you.
Amen. Hallelujah.
But keep it up. Keep sharing the good news.
Yes, please. Thank you. All right.
Is that it for your books, movies, TVs, etc., and so forth?
Yes.
I finished up the most current arc of the Thor comic,
Okay.
God of Hammers.
Oh, my.
It was pretty good, so check that out.
After getting hammered, you might be a little Thor.
I've been watching The Shield. Did you ever watch that back in the day?
No, but I need to. Wasn't that guy on it?
Michael Cichlids or whatever?
Yeah, Chicklets or something like that, yeah. Right, that was his, he won
This is where Durthan chimes in.
Yeah, he won a couple Emmys for this or something, didn't he?
So
Or
I like that
Aces.
show. It's been several years now since I've watched it, so I'm kind of going through it again when I'm not playing Elden Ring.
Elden Ring, you say?
But before we get into that,
Uh-oh.
on our previous podcast, we had said something jokingly about, we probably have 2 women listeners or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So we did hear from our good friend Doug of Doug and Nicole fame.
Oh, my.
He says, "Howdy, gaming gods,"
Oh, my.
which is how we will officially be referred to from now on. Doug has set the standard.
Doug, Nicole, I heart y'all.
Really enjoy the podcast, and yes, Nicole listens.
Oh, my. And
So-
then she has to take anti-nausea.
Maybe. One of the things that I love most about the show is that you're both such good friends. So we obviously have snowed Doug on that one. This is all a shtick.
Yeah, this is like Cap Abbott and Costello or something.
Well, I know Penn and Teller have said that, people think that they probably live together in the house and, spend every minute of their day together. And they're like, nope, it's pretty much just a business relationship. We're really not friends.
Wow.
So we're kind of like that, except for we're totally enemies.
Frenemies. Anyway.
So you're both such good friends, yet
Yeah.
have quite different views on many subjects.
Oh, my.
Sometimes the opposite views. This really adds to the program. I find myself leaning towards one of your opinions for one item and the other's opinion on another item.
Oh, my.
Makes me think, ouch. Hey, this is all straight from what he said.
Straight from the
He
heart.
additionally said Eddie is typically right more often than Matt. He stinks. So thank you for that, Doug. I appreciate it.
I have a strong suspicion that is not any of that in there.
And some of this, and so then he gives us some really great stuff that we may end up using on the Twitch show
Nice.
or future podcasts.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to put them out here right now so we don't forget. On the RPG side, I have the following questions.
Okay.
What are your
That's easy for you to say.
What are some of your favorite house rules? How do you handle a rule question as a player and or DM?
Consistency.
As a DM, I sometimes inadvertently revert to an older version of a particular D&D rule. My bad. What is the best way for a player to question the rule, short of throwing dice at me? So we'll come back to those.
Yeah. Great questions, though.
In your recent
Excellent.
podcast, player engagement, with the increase of using digital devices in place of character sheets, what are some ways to keep the players focused and on game? I'm finding the following. Players get distracted with media, such as the news during a game, especially when it's not their turn. Players will look up stats on monsters.
I don't appreciate that.
No. Now everyone can metagame. So I know we're not going into these, but that's definitely a party foul for me to look up monster stats.
Yeah, I know that rubs you, and it does me
Even
too.
since back in the day, and I'm sure you'd say,
Someone
I
go
did the same
reaching
thing.
for that. I brought my own copy of the monster manual. Why do you, player, need a copy of the monster manual at the table?
But back in the day, didn't you read the monster manual enough
Oh, to where I could
that you were like, oh yeah, that's a this.
I knew what their hit dice were.
about
Yeah,
that.
sad to say, I had it
Typically, I try to keep that to myself. It's like, well, if your character hasn't seen that,
all. Yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
I will expand upon it further. So instead, let me move along.
yeah. But that's great. All good stuff, Doug. Thanks. And Nicole.
As for your reviews, we watched Free Guy based on your recommendation.
and
Really enjoyed it.
good deal.
Kind of a mix of Player One, Ready Player One, and Jumanji. Yep.
Yeah, I like that.
Next movie will be The Last Duel. Probably not the type of movie we've watched without your comments. So we're looking forward to it. We'll let you know how it turns out. So yeah, I
Let
would
us
like
know.
to see how that went.
Yeah.
One recommendation.
Uh-oh.
Is there any way to put the email address on the podcast homepage or listed in the description of the various podcasts? It would be a good way for those of us who listen while driving.
Ah.
So he also sent this to me because I think a lot of times when we say the email, Matt says the email, he says the No Class RPG Podcast at Gmail. It's
Actually, no class RPG podcast at gmail.com.
so thanks for all you do. Love, Doug and Nicole.
Oh,
So
many
thank you
hearts.
guys.
Yeah.
That is exactly the
just
kind
what-
of
yes.
email that we try to get, the kind of feedback that we want. If somebody has something horrible to say, though, especially about Matt, I would love to hear it
There you go.
because we want all the feedback. But yeah, this is a treasure trove of goodies you've given us
Really,
that
yes,
we'll be able to
thank you,
use
Doug.
down
You know,
the road.
we need to give them some or get them something.
Well, should we spoil this surprise or not?
Don't spoil it. Let's surprise them.
Okay. But yes, there is a surprise
Ooh la
for
la.
you, Mr. Doug. And if you've been listening closely, it's already been revealed.
Dun, dun, dun.
What could it be?
What could it be?
See you in 2 weeks.
That's right.
Okay, on with the show.
Right.
Elden Ring cast.
Elden Ring cast.
This is going to be a short and sweet one, too. We're
Yay.
under the gun here.
Yeah, we are.
Elden Ring, you love it.
Yeah, I absolutely do. You spreading the disease, you got me hooked on the Souls type games, as they would call it. You got roguelike, Souls-like, whatever. This is Souls-like gaming. And so Dark Souls is a special brand of masochism.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so this is just more of the same, but it's really well made. It's a lot of fun. It's gorgeous. It's aggravating. It's everything you'd want from a Souls game.
I was going to say, how many hours have you put into it already?
Way too many. And this is for a guy who already has burned the candle at both ends. So I've been missing out on a little bit of sleep that I really need desperately, you know.
Yeah, it is. In the beginning of it, I was like, this is very Dark Souls-esque, but there's something about it. It doesn't have that same atmosphere just because you can go, screw it, I'm getting on my horse and riding around.
Yeah, this is sandboxy. It's not more linear. It's very sandboxy.
So I like it, but it does change up the dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you have the longer dungeons where you're like, okay, it's about time for me to leave and go ride my horse somewhere
This is
else.
a slog, yeah.
But I've had a good time with it. I have beaten the game. I am the Elden Lord, sir.
You have beaten the game. Ooh la la.
Yep, I am the Elden Lord.
So for your first playthrough, you went strength build, dual wield.
Yeah, which was completely stupid.
But that was, you went into it blindly without any spoilers or anything.
And I played it
as a purist.
blindly, and I have missed a ton of stuff, but I had a really good time. If you like Dark Souls, I recommend it to you. If you have never enjoyed Dark Souls games,
You'll probably hate it.
yeah, this is not going to change it. It's not like, wee.
Yeah. I mean, there's, like you said, it's more sandboxy. It feels like, someone said as if you took Dark Souls and mixed it with Skyrim, and I don't entirely agree with that assessment, but yes, the sandboxy part where you don't have to stay on this current storyline and go off on a tangent, absolutely, you can do that, you know, but it's still Souls
Yeah.
at the end of the day.
So if you need an entry point into the Dark Souls world, this might be it.
So the irony, Eddie decided to go like dual wield strength build, and it turned out for this particular game, some people are of the opinion that's not necessarily the most optimal build. I think he's heard good things about Dex builds, and
Well, it's like a lot of games. If you start off as the warrior class, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
But then the mage, the wizard's going to leave you behind.
yeah. Well, so it's funny was Eddie gave me like Dark Souls 2, gosh, what was it, back in 2015 or 16 or something, as like a gift on Steam. But I love that he didn't tell me anything about it. I loaded it up, said, it's a RPG fantasy. I'll play a wizard. Died and died and died and died and died. And said, this game sucks. Well, no, I mean, I think I even made a warrior and died because it's Souls. But on a goof, this time around, I was like, I'm more conversant. I played the last Dark Souls all the way through once and halfway through a second time. And I thought, I'm going to try a caster. I never did a caster. Well, what irony, it turns out this is the most caster conducive version of a Souls type game, is the opinion of some people. So I've had a fun time playing a caster. I mean, I'm still dying left and right, but no more than I probably would playing.
So how far are you along in the plot line?
I'm nearly done with there's a Rennie and Ranny and Ronnie and Rudy or whatever, but the chick with the big floppy hat that gives you the wolves at the beginning, I'm almost finished with her storyline. I've killed Starscream Rutabaga. I've killed, what were those first couple of guys? That's earlier on, the big bosses.
Margaret.
Yeah, I've killed Margaret and Godric. I've killed a number of other interesting individuals. I can't remember their names, but yeah, I don't know that I have activated the lift yet. So obviously I'm still got a third of the content left, maybe.
The grand lift of Rond or whatever.
Yeah.
The one to get you to the Altus Plateau.
Yeah. Which
you've got a lot left.
But then what's crazy is somehow I went another way and got to the Altus Plateau, which you can do that with this. It's really weird. So even you'd figure like, oh, that's a choke point. You have to do that quest. No, I've been to the Altus Plateau somehow, some other way. So that's what's neat about the game being sandboxy. There's a more direct route to a way, but you might actually stumble into that area. Because what's the big city?
I've been capital.
I've been to the capital, and I'm like, how did I get to the capital? I just stumbled. So it's very sandboxy in that regard, that you can just wander and stumble into a place. I've had the little bit I've got to play. I've had a whole lot of fun with it, But what my next build? So what are you going to play when you go for your next playthrough?
Maybe a wizard.
Yeah, and me, I want to play like a paladin, like melee holy, because holy looks really solid in this version, and for 2, it's very accessible. Like, it's a whole thing to try to find your sorceries and your caster staff or whatever. If you, again, like Eddie, you're not going for spoilers. If I had went for spoilers, which I would have been way better, way sooner. But anyway, I had fun. But yeah, second playthrough going holy. I mean, there's a guy in the round table that's got all the holy spells and stuff. So
yeah, after this first blind playthrough, I have no idea what happened in the game, what the story was. Yeah. I'm like, I killed a bunch of people, and I hope that was for the best. I hope that's what they wanted.
And it's funny, there's things in the game, like if there's just some NPC that they won't hardly interact with you, and you take a swipe at them and they'll die, you might have shut yourself out of a whole storyline for that playthrough. Because there was a guy staring at the sun, and on a goof, I took a swing because he wouldn't interact with me. So I just like, well, let's see if it'll let me swing on him. Pop, one hit and he's dead. And I went, did I just kill somebody important? Probably. So yeah, be aware of that.
Your only friend in the game.
I know. Because the one person who wouldn't attack you on sight. Anyway, did you help the little girl that had the plague in that one temple?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So yeah.
How could I not? I'm not heartless.
You say that. All right. What else would you add? So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's it. That's if you like Dark Souls, run out and get it. Yeah. And the topic for today is
low prep gaming, pros and cons.
Low prep podcast, pros and cons.
Yeah, exactly.
How about that?
I love that. Yeah. But I know you won't believe this, but there are lots of games out there. Yeah. But not every game.
I disagree.
Not every game is for everyone. Also, I've seen people that will not budge when it comes to trying something new. I'm not saying one game is better than another. Sometimes I want crunch, sometimes I don't. Luckily, I'm able to play different games to scratch those itches. So some people dread the learning curve of a new game. The upside is low prep rules versus in light games don't require near as much learning of new complex rules. I remember years ago, there's a gal that she's the person who first started the Shreveport Bossier gaming group on Facebook. And I think she cut her teeth on Pathfinder. Crunch.
I hope it didn't hurt.
Crunch, yeah. And so when I kept trying to convince her to come play one of these OGLs, because she'd be like, oh, me and my boyfriend, or now husband, we never get to RPG. And I'm like, well, come games. I don't want to learn a new game. And first I was like, but this is a game that you'll pick it up in 15 minutes. Well, she's thinking it's going to be just as crunchy as, say, and I'm not a dig at Pathfinder. If you like it, great. But you have to admit, it's a very, very crunchy game, And so, but not every game is that crunchy. And that's one of the good things about one of the low prep games. If it's low prep for the GM, it's probably low rules learning investment for the player. You know, so that's a pro is what I'll put out there. Like I said, low prep rules like games don't require near as much learning of new complex rules. Would you agree there's probably less GM burnout?
Would I?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Would you?
Absolutely. Yeah. These types of games can help players to be more involved, help them to strengthen their skills towards running games. So a lot of times the low prep games are ones where the players are involved with. And I want to bring up your Test of a Hero, which uses Barbarians of the Ruined Earth by Mike Evans. So you've ran that already before, and it was kind of improvisational. There's like a very loose framework for you, and you have the players involved in such ways as
providing their input on what they wanted to do. What is the goal? What is lost that must be found? Who is the major enemy? Who are his henchmen? What do they do? What are their quirks?
There you go. So them as players having on the spot to improv themselves and help come up with these names and things, it's helping them learn to be more improvisational if they ever roll around to being game masters. So absolutely, it's sharpening your skills, it's sharpening their skills with this improvisation.
Absolutely.
Not to bash the oldest fantasy game, but as far as the last 3 iterations, they're very crunchy. The combats can drag on, and it can take up a lot of your game time, which you might be something you want. It's fine if you want lengthy tactical combats. Some people, that's a rich addition to them for gaming is they want to tie up a lot of game time because that's less time for the other content, per se. And a campaign that would maybe play out over 12 months in one of these more crunchier games, in a low prep rules light game, you could probably run the same campaign in 10 months because the combats by their nature are probably going to go faster. And that's not a bad thing, but it just depends on where you stand on that. Campaigns will progress to the story portion faster, like I was saying, so take that as you will. Like when you ran Test of a Hero, it's been collaborative between you and the players. So some players love that. I imagine some might not. You didn't find anybody that was like, ugh, I don't like that?
But I will say that I'm kind of modifying that for Gary Con.
Yeah.
Because there are people that are like, that's so lazy. You didn't prepare anything.
Yeah. I laugh. I meant to mention it in here, but good, you beat me to it. On Reddit one time, I remember a guy going, oh, those guys who are improvisational game masters, they're just lazy. And it's like, no, I mean, we've proven we have the aptitude to write some ooh la la chef's kiss adventure, but I think for me it's fun as a player, and we've been doing some of that in my DCC game at the game club, and it's funny because I'll just point at one of the players and go, what do you want to call this mountain range? And they'll be like, but then they blurt something out.
See, that's like my old sandbox game. I did a bunch of that too. Like, you guys are the first people to ever discover this, so what is this woods? Yeah. And where you're like, if somebody had been like, I'd be like, this is the woods. And they don't know how they got this name, but
it's funny because I'm going to call her out, Jessica. I said, all right, you're a dwarf, you're from the mountains. What's that one local mountain range? She's like, I said, there are no wrong answers. She goes, Yosemite? And I said, all right, the Yosemite Mountains or whatever, But no, I mean, they're having fun with it, I think. But a couple of times when I've just, guys, they just kind of freeze up. They're not used to it, but they're starting to roll. They're getting comfortable with it.
Aren't you glad you don't have the Elden Ring players naming your stuff?
Oh, yeah. So yeah, you let people name things where, as a bonus, the skills you and your players develop in these games can carry over to the crunchier games.
Delicious.
So playing both, that's one of the things. Some of these improvisational skills will enhance when you go back to the crunchier game, because sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. Sometimes I enjoy, the world's oldest fantasy game. Other times I want this rules light. There's not any wrong answers here. But you can enhance those skills. It'll help when you go back. Imagine a new villain shows up organically in play and having the players feed you details. To me, that sounds fun, and seems that maybe they may be more engaged or invested with a villain they help create. Mm-hmm. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
Yeah. So I laughed, like I said, on Reddit. You already mentioned that. Some guy resented low prep games as they felt it was just the GM being lazy. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of it. Just, I want people to be willing to consider playing and or running these low prep games. talking about and bragging about Mike Evans' Barbarians of the Ruined Earth, I showed up at the awesome Dragon's Nest a while back to run some role playing, and I just brought something I had prepped for Umerica.
Please continue.
And I brought Barbarians, and Ron was there, and Ron's like, "Ooh, do Barbarians," and I'm like, "Okay," and I didn't have anything prepared, but he has like a couple pages of charts in the back of the book. I turned to those, took turns with James King and you know Ron rolling dice on the various charts for me to get them involved. I took the bullet points, I quickly strung together a story, and we took off and we played for 2-3 hours, had a blast, and I created an NPC on the fly that Ron still, you know, oohs and ahs about, you know. And so anyway, I mean, yeah, I mean, that was a lot of fun to improv like that and just off the cuff, and the guys were feeding me stuff, and we had a great time. So anyway, yeah. So like I said, consider low prep rules like gaming. I'm not trying to win you over to it 24/7. And the great thing is nowadays, a lot of companies put out starter rules that you can get for free or with only a couple $1 investment off drive-through or whatever. And so, you know, you can't complain about, well, I don't want to buy a bunch of new books. No, just get the freebie rules or the quick start rules and kick the tires, you know, give it a try.
Yep. And a lot of times the simpler rules give you more time to focus on the character development and invest in your backstory and the plot instead of which 5 feats am I going to take next? What will make me the most broken, most powerful character of all?
Exactly. And that can get really rich. I mean, you know, and then you're honing those skills. Absolutely. And that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Since you're not embroiled. And that's it. You can focus more on RP and story when you're not embroiled in combat that takes an hour and a half to play out.
And the longer I get in my gaming career here or whatever, the more simpler rules I like. It's almost like starting to see the Matrix or something. It's like, I don't need that rule or that rule or that rule. I really just need roll a die. Is it high or is it low? Something good happens, something bad happens, and let's go.
Yeah. And that's what I love, where some of these games have even encouraged a thing where like failing forward, where it's like, well, you failed but, or you succeeded but. And I like that kind of mentality where there are no wrong answers again, or it's kind of like, well, you failed, but, you know, and that's where you get to be creative and have fun things and ideas. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, all good things, you know.
All right. So just a little quickie so that we could say hello to you before GaryCon. And when we come back, we'll have a GaryCon report for you.
Indeed.
But I can tell by the clock on the wall, we're all out of hit points.